The term military analyst is not a legally protected term. It's not like doctor. It's more like economist. Any asshole can start calling themselves one and fart out a vaguely plausible opinion on the current situation.
Did I do this right? Oh, look at that. I did it right. Well, and then there's the font. Yep. You're going to have to deal with it, kids. The font isn't all that great. I have a request, and the request is for me to actually do some economics work. It's kind of funny because I used to do this more than half my life ago. More than half my life ago, I was a sovereign analyst. And it did not get the girl saw. Anyway, let me go to the request now. Here's the question. Can you see? It's still on Fred. Okay, so that might be good. I could do most of my research and tab out and not screw with things. So let me go to the request. There's a lot of political leanings in how people are talking about the current economy, unemployment rate, inflation, growth, national debt, etc. Would like to see your take on how the economy is currently doing and how you see it going over the next 1 to 3 years. I know we are in bad shape long term, but just some thoughts on the medium term. And yeah, I hate to sound so arrogant, but you consume copious amounts of economic data. You can just guess what's happening. My original prediction 20 odd years ago was the U.S. was going to decay with increasingly sclerotic economic growth, meaning waning economic growth, lower labor force participation. And we weren't going to have like a collapse. We would just slowly decay inevitably into a French-like economy. And inevitably, I thought we'd settle on Brazil, that we'd be a solid second world country. But that would be the most important because at least a lot of people didn't have to work. And above all else, the most important thing about economics is that liberal white women feel good about it. That's the most important thing. So what we'll do, and this is, God, so long ago, I remember when we didn't have these resources, you had to pay for them through data services like Bloomberg terminals and whatnot. That's how old Cappy is. We have what is still to this day, I say, the best economic database. It's the St. Louis Federal Reserve's Fred database. And you can find most things here, especially about the United States. You want to go overseas, you got to go to the OECD or ILO. And Lord knows there might be new databases. It's been eons since I used. So what we're going to do, let me go here. Let me alt tab. All right, good. We're going to go over a handful of things, kind of like when a doctor goes over your heart rate and your blood pressure and cough and turn left. I'm going to look in your ear. We're going to do the quick 1-2 on the United States economy. I don't think we're going to have any surprises. I don't think we're good. It's just, what's the United States economy look like? We'll go to Walmart and look. Oh, fat, slow, and dumb. Yeah, there you go. Fat, slow, dumb, and in debt. Yep. So we're going to look at the unemployment rate, labor force participation rate, hours worked per week, if I could find it. I don't know if the Fred database has that. The dependency ratio, GDP growth, inflation, housing starts. I'll explain that one later. And debt to GDP I already looked up, which is if you factor in the new debt that Trump allowed with his big, beautiful bill, which is going to be the $42 trillion. That's going to put our debt to GDP of 140%, which is horrible, which is objectively bad, but relative to the other fat Western nations that formerly first world nations who think that just borrowing money from future generations is how you get the economy going. Again, as long as liberal white women were happy, then that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So let's go through the first, which is the unemployment rate. Hopefully you should be able to see the chart. Let me scroll down. Can you see that chart? There you go. So the unemployment rate is not as important as the labor force participation rate, but I look at it anyway. Come on, Aaron, get to there you go. There you go. All right. And it's still relatively low. You see the big fake thing where we all stayed indoors for no fucking reason whatsoever because it made liberal white women happy. Safety at all costs. You see the not the .com, the housing crisis there, .com bubble there. This was the 1991 recession. That was, I'd say, the last traditional recession we had. The Volcker recession in the 80s would go back. And it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. Anything under 5 is good. But that's somewhat misleading. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at the labor force participation rate. So most people who are looking for a job can find one. Uh, you know what? Let's do the U4. I'm sorry. Let's do the U4. Let's try underemployment. Or is it U6? Let's try U6. There no he's gonna kill you all. I'm gonna kill them all, Jonathan. Winston, sorry. Underemployment. Marginally, God, just say underemployment, Jesus Christ. The underemployment rate, that is up at 8%. I find that hilarious. They say the underemployment. Oh, that might include the regular employment rate. Total unemployed plus all marginal. There it is, U6. So we have to subtract out the actual underemployment from that. Let me see if I can do U-4. Isn't this fun doing economics, boys and girls? Here we go. That's what I wanted originally, but I didn't put a dash in. So the underemployment rate is about the same as the unemployment rate, 4.5%. So for those of you who have your degree or years experience, but you just can't find it, you can't find a job in your field, but you're working as a bartender, that's what this is supposed to. Ever so roughly, I'm just going to say right now, it doubles what the real unemployment rate, meaning people who have no jobs whatsoever. And if you want, let's play economist, but let's play 2025 economist, not old school economist. We're going to play 2025 economist, where you use your fucking eyes. You look at this, you say, this is bullshit. The rate is much higher than this. There is no way that only 5% of people employed in the U.S. economy right now are underemployed or marginally employed. It's way higher than that. So this is where you question the economist methodologies, but we have a data point. It's more value in trends of what's happening. That's ticking up slowly but surely. And it basically doubles the unemployment rate to the point that I would say your real effective unemployment rate is about 9%. That's where I would say your real unemployment rate is. And that's not good. That's bad. But, better compared to you Europeans, right? You're, so more intelligent than us Americans. So I would even say it's higher than that. I mean, this is where this is just ballpark figures. I'd say at least a third of the American people employed, at least a third of you are underemployed. You're being used nowhere near your capabilities and capacities. You're still getting paid. Yes, it's employment, but there's the non-financial cost you're paying of being underemployed. And then I'd also say there's the financial cost of you being underpaid. Not being paid what you're capable of, but shit, one could say that's 100% of U.S. employees. But if we use these metrics, unemployment's ticking up, underemployment is ticking up, somewhere between 9% to I'd say more like 30% are either fully unemployed and or underemployed. So we got that there. All right, now let's do labor force participation rate. This is more important than unemployment because it's what percent of the able-bodied population is working. And that's more important than anything else. How many people are contributing to GDP? We look here. Oh, look at that. Dabby Dooby. Now they always fuck with the axes on the left. So 58 is on the low end. If we go back to those horrible 1950s where everything was evil and bad and there were white people and racism and discrimination, and I always say, well, can't we have 50s policies removing all the actual bad stuff like racism and discrimination? No, we have to throw it all out. So back when you girls could just stay at home and take care of the kids, the labor force participation rate was very low. Because women are thrown in with this as well. If you just look at male labor force participation rate, I think if you go back to 1948, something like 88 or 89% of men. It's just basically an X if you do men and women. So you see about 60% of the U.S. adults, able-bodied adults, are working. Then if you look at 1965, let me make sure I got this zoomed on the chart. You see women entering the labor force, which God bless it. We love it when you ladies work hard, pay taxes, and commute. We are very thankful that because, and then you all, especially, from 60s to you girls are voting for free shit, right? Liberal white women must be made happy. And so that's the ushering 1965 right there. That's when the welfare state started, the modern version under Lyndon B. Johnson. And you girls intellectually, honestly contributed, entered the labor force, stagnated in the 90s and the 2000s until about 2010. And then women realized it wasn't Sex in the City. And then there's been a precipitous drop. That was due to the housing crash. And just so you know, I'm not going to go pull it up. Men's labor force participation is just a slow, more or less straight line going down. I believe it went from 88% to 68%, if I remember the numbers from Zero World Problems. Maybe it was a world without men. But men realized long ago work sucks. And as technology advances, and let's just say, admit we're not getting married or having kids, there's less and less demands. And let's also admit you girls disproportionately vote for a welfare state because all liberal white women must be happy. And there's nothing more important than feeding randos that aren't your children. Men have just been saying, oh, you're going to pay for my shit? Oh, fuck, I don't have to work and pay for this? Oh, you girls are going to, oh, okay, we're tapping out. Because men knew long ago work sucked. But we're not going to tell you girl bosses that. So men have been slowly and inexorably getting out of the labor market. Women ticked up, but then they also started dropping off. We tried it. We know how we told you to make the whole thing different for us and change the whole world and the economy. Yeah, we did it for 20 years. We're done now. Oh, so we get rid of the welfare state? No, I want to feel good with other people's money. So women have also been dropping out of the labor force participation rate. Now, to be intellectually honest, I don't believe that has anything to do with this battle the sex is currently going on. I just think younger generations and middle-aged generations started to realize work sucks and go fuck yourself. Let's also admit in that time, corporate America has become increasingly untenable, impossible to work for with the ridiculous college education requirements. And people like, well, I'd like to work, but if you're going to make it this difficult to work, fuck you. Oh my God, look, welfare. Oh, free shit, everybody. I can have food, clothing, and shelter and live with my parents. You see the laughably stupid times there where there was that sharp decline. And then the labor force participation rate has slowly, rapidly after if we remove the gap, it looks like it's just trending down a little bit more. Because what was it pre-pandemic? It was 62.9. What we at now? 62.2. So that's down the better part of a point. And I think that is going to continue to drop because men are continuing. They're going to continue to drop out of the economy. Now we get to the Scooby. Do you want my prediction value? Here's my prediction value. The Scooby-Doo mystery will continue as ever so too long didn't read version. America continues to treat men like shit. Women continue not to fuck their men, and women continue to get fat. And you better start getting rid of the DEI, not just in name, but in action too. But as the economy continues to be more hostile towards men, society continues to be hostile towards men, men will be demoralized out of the economy with nothing to invest in it, and labor force participation rate will continue to drop. Women, I think, will continue to drop because work sucks. I think they're going to and let's also admit, corpo America, you guys make it fucking impossible to work for you. It's not an acceptable deal. You don't pay living wages. So yeah, you're going to continue to see the labor force participation rate drop because everyone is asshole. Everyone is asshole. There. Let's see you get that financial or economic analysis out of the other economists. Everyone is asshole and women are fat. There. The two. There's a lot wrong with the U.S. economy, but the two big ones, the two monkey wrenches in your machinery is everyone is asshole and fat women. There. Did I explain it? Did I? Go fuck off and go talk to Oprah some more. So there is that. Then the next one. What's the next one? Hours worked per week. Let's look at that. There are fewer people working hours worked per week. We may not have that on Fred. We may have to look at average hours worked. There we go. There we go. They got it. Wait. It only goes to 1970? Why'd you get rid of this? Why did you get rid of this? See, the National Bureau of Economics, go fuck yourselves. This is an important basic. Good God. Well, you can see the seasonality in this chart. You can also see the general trend down from what is 1947 to 1970. That's mostly men getting out of the labor force. Let me see if I can't find average. I found it before. Average work week hours US. Images, see if I could find traditional data. Okay, what do we got here? Average annual hours worked by Americans. Oh, this is an updated one. So they took one normal data point and they replaced it with another. All right, let me see. Average annual hours worked by persons engaged for God, just average annual hours worked. Okay, let me type that in. Average annual hours. Okay, does this go? Okay, here we go. Here's your data. Okay, so it looked like it went down, down, down. Yeah, the average person worked about 2,000 hours per week. Into the 1980s is about 1,800. Went up in the aughts. That was the tech revolution. Had a recession. We had a housing bubble, and now it's slowly creeping back up. Yeah. The axis makes it look a lot worse than it is. We've basically gone from 2,000 hours down to 1,750. So a loss of 250 hours, which is a drop of 12.5%. So we work 12.5% less than we do. Though since the housing crisis, you don't even see what year. Oh, does it stop? My fucking God, man. So their data ends in 2019. I was wondering, it looked so this chart is worthless. It's not telling us what's happened since the disease. Yep, they stopped it right there. Oh my God. Average work week US. Is this chart? No. 2022. Average annual Zippa. Okay, this is another chart. It looks like it shot up. Cato Institute. I want to know. Oh God. And this what's the economics like? You can't see it. It's just me searching for data. Average hours worked per week, US. Let's go here. Overtime. Average hours worked. Average hours employed people spent on working. Average hours employed people spent on working days of the week. Average weekly hours of all employees. Total private fed. Does this go to 2025? Okay. I mean, I wish I would. Well, I don't know why. So it only goes. Let's do max. This is max. It goes from 2006 to today. So this is your weekly hours worked. So it dropped ever so roughly. It dropped from 2,000 hours per year by 12.5%. From that data point, if we were to continue using this data point, you guys see it? No? Why am I? Oh, God. God, I hate you guys. I got it on a different. Let's try it here. Here it is. That's why I charged you, buddy. I hit enter. I know I hit enter. Okay, so is this, can you guys see that? There it is. So we're going to go down to about here where it bottomed out on the other chart, continue to go down a little bit more, and then it's recovered. Now, this is hourly work week, so that's 33.7, 34. We went up 1 hour. Again, it looks like, oh my God, we just jumped up. No, we went from this entire jump up is an extra hour and a half per week. Or I'm sorry, per week. That's not a lot. And then it went down. Here was the disease. And then people shot up after that. That's interesting. And then it went down. There's not a lot of change in the past. Oh, what is that? 20 years? Doesn't look like a lot of change. Everyone's been working about 34 hours per week. 34.5. But I have a feeling that might ever so slowly continue to go down as per the previous data. Yeah, it looks like we hit a little bit of resistance. Looks like it flatlined at about 1,700 hours a week. Maybe that will hold steady. I don't know. I mean, especially if you have a concept like shifts. Like, no, you must be here for 8 hours, and based on how many people go and commute into an office. Close out of those. That might flatline. My whole point in analyzing how many people are working and then how much are they working per hours, those are your two main things. So the labor force participation rate and how much time are people working, whether it's per year or per week. That's going to be your underlying engine to economic growth. So right now, the percentage of people working is dropping. The amount that they are working historically has dropped, but it looks like it might flatline. But overall, you're going to have less people working the same amount of hours. So I think you're going to have stagnant pressure or downward pressure on GDP growth. What is the next one I want to look at? Let's look at the dependency ratio. I don't know if that's on the Fred database. The dependency ratio is just basically the percent of parasites to producers. And I don't say that in a pejorative or slandering sense. I say that in a descriptive sense. What percentage of the population doesn't work to the percent that does? And there's two innocent groups of people who don't work, kids and retired people, right? Now, yes, there are negative parasites who are able-bodied adults who don't work, and that's thrown in there too. But I want to know what percentage of the population is like collecting a check versus how many people are producing. So this is going to be dependency. See if they have a age dependency, older dependence to working age population. I don't want age dependency. I want the dependency ratio. See how economists do this? Look at that. They've got the age dependency ratio for Mexico. I want the total dependency ratio. Age. You guys spend all, this is why I don't like economists are so fucking worthless. All this shit you did the age dependency ratio, what it seems to be every economy or every country out there, but we don't have. You just got to hide it. Looks up dependency US. Oh, now they're just saying, oh, we're only doing the age dependency ratio. So it doesn't show you the percentage of people working versus not. It's just old people and young people. Oh, God. All right, we might as well look at it because that's the data. Take a look. Oh, yeah. So here's the dependency ratio. It used to be 15% of the population. This is old. Yeah, older dependents. This doesn't even include kids. This is just old people. 15% of the population is relying on the remaining 85%, but a lot of those are kids who don't work and Democrats who don't work. So let's go all the way up here to 2024. The dependency ratio, old timers, the boomers, basically 28%. So 1 in 4 people, just the old people, are relying on you middle age, working age people. And then you got to throw in kids and parasites. So that's the data is more or less not worth anything. All right. But it's going up. It's going up. GDP. Oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be like asking a woman a question about, like, what would you like to eat? And now here's going to come a shit ton of fucking shit I never asked for. GDP growth, right? I'm going to type in GDP growth to the Fred database. Now watch how many fucking answers I didn't ask for comes up. The FOMC, Summary of Economic Performance. I just want the data. It's the Fred database. I just want the data. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that real GDP. There's 1,138 resources on GDP. I just want real GDP. Let's do real GDP. Let's narrow it down. Real gross domestic product. All right, so we can look at this visually and see what kind of growth rates we got. Can I adjust? See, and this is why I want it converted to percent change growth. Because it's numbers, and then there's this inflationary aspect. Account tools. Can I do? Used to be able to adjust this. Release tables. Real gross domestic product. Quarterly. That's the unemployment rate. I want to know. Here, is this it? Is this the percent change growth? We get a chart here. Okay, so this is growth. What's the blue? Real gross domestic product blue versus red. All right, so there are two data sets maybe that they used, and they go back to the 1950s. What year is this? 2024. I'll go grab the data later. So 2.5, 2.7. We had a 5%. Oh, there's a drop there. Okay. See, that recession didn't count because that was Biden. That didn't count. All right. So there is a lot of chaos. Let me make sure you. Oh, it's not showing. Fuck, man. Okay, let's try this. Can you guys see that? There. That is a very chaotic looking chart, right? And what you're looking at is the quarterly growth annualized of our economy. And the black line you see there, every time the economy drops below that, that's a recession, except for the time it happened under Biden, because that doesn't count. And there's two, you can ignore this. It looks like it's red and blue. Yeah, there's two different measures of GDP they're using there. But what you're going to notice, if we go back to 1948, when we started tracking this very consistently, you're going to say, boy, it looks like on average growth rates were higher back then than they are now. They're kind of trending down amongst the chaos. And you'd be right. Economic growth is about half of what it was. I saw that 15 years ago. Might even be more sclerotic now. In the olden days, when the evil 50s were around, we were just killing babies, although feminists would get off on that. You'd have an average growth rate of 4.6%. I'm sorry, 4.5% per year. Last I checked this data, which was quite some time ago, was 2.5. So we've lost about a 2 full percent of our real GDP growth over the past 50 years. It's probably even less now. It shouldn't be a surprise, because when you have less people working and working less hours per week, surprise, you'll have less GDP growth. And this number will continue to go down, as I predicted long ago. We'll be excited with the 2% positive growth. Right? You're not going to have no 6% growth rate when Reagan came back. Right? You're not going to see that 6% GDP growth. This is some fluke thing. You guys are going to get, all the economists will jizz their shorts when we get a GDP growth rate of 1.8%. Oh my God, it's positive. Then we'll be excited if it just doesn't go below 0. Then they'll say, but the population is collapsing. So it's okay if we have slower economic growth and it's under 1% negative. Then we'll be happy. Oh, I only contracted 1%. And you apes in the Walmart will continue eating the slop. You animals go, oh, the economy only contracted by 1.3%. Television internet person say good thing. But yeah, this is just here. I'll tell you this. This is Americans becoming fat, slow, and lazy, working less and fewer of them working. That's it. That's all this chart shows. So and I don't see, right, you public school teachers aren't teaching the kids in American individualism and a rugged individualism and work hard, and you're still teaching them you're entitled, you're a victim. You're amazing. Give you money. Hey, Democrats. Democrats. You're not right. And then we might as well go to this. Let me grab this here, although you probably can't read it. This is not the data. What is that number of associated migrants? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. Can you guys see that? So we're working less. Fewer people are working. And then I want to, okay, what are people working in? You can't see the chart, but I went to the National Center for Education Statistics to see, hey, what is it, 15 years now after I wrote a book called Worthless, The Young Person's Indispensable Guide to Choosing the Right Major? Have young people gotten their heads out of their ass? No, you haven't. There is ever so a slight decline in the number of young people majoring in stupid shit. There's a significant decline in the total number of men attending college, and that's a good thing because men are realizing college is a worthless degree. But when we look at people like, I'm going to go and invest in my training and education, the vast majority of people are still majoring in stupid shit. That top line right there is business. I did not back out accounting. I didn't have time to go and get the actual Excel spreadsheets, which I used to do back in the day, add them all up, say, this is a worthless degree, this is a worthwhile degree. But last time I checked, you're still looking at about 80% of degrees being conferred to all people are worthless. For men, it's 60%. Ladies, I believe it's 90%. No one coming, none of the younger gender. Okay, so I'm showing you now the trend of the number of people working is going down. The trend of the amount we work per week is stagnating at best. And no, young people still haven't pulled their heads out of their ass to go and major in worthwhile things, except there is some men who are going into the trade. And there's a little bump in women who are going in, but it's not enough. It's not enough to counter this. Everyone still has their heads thoroughly shoved up their ass like the Democrats and their teachers had them shoved. Like, that's all you do. That's all you do. When you go to schools, the Democrats have your head shoved up your ass. I'm going to get rid of the... So that way we have barely qualified people doing South Dakota internet right now. That's why I had to do this. It'll get better when the rally ends. All right. So we did GDP. Let's do inflation. Inflation technically is irrelevant to the economy. It can warp prices, and it does warp prices, which can lower economic growth. But it's just how much money did we print off beyond what the GDP growth was? So let's go all the way back to the Fred database. Type in inflation. Sticky price. Just give me the CPI. Sticky price. Oh my God, I can't always think of me. Oh, wow, look at that. Inflation jumped up a lot. You fucking idiots. Right there. Can you see that? Hang on. Look at that. Hey, let's have everyone stay indoors and not produce shit. We're going to print off money and give people stimmy checks. Kaboom! And you people, I can't afford housing. Groceries are too expensive. Print off more money. I could just assume inflation's going to go up, and that would be fine if inflation went up and wages kept up, but they're not. They're not. And that's going to be very bad for younger people going forward. And the younger people are the future of the economy. That means going to be less spending, right? I mean, to show you the immediate real world effect, recent research came out where they pulled some young people and they said, the video games, you're going to buy video games, and Gen Zers aren't buying video games. Now, the main reason is the video games coming out suck. It's all Shaniqua, power fat black princess who uses her loud beam to deafen her patriarchal white male capitalist Republicans in the Senate enemies. So there's that. There's also the video games suck too, but the video games are too expensive. That's the second main reason young people are not buying video games. And it's collapsing. You thought, what, down 3%? No, like down 33%, a full third, and they're spending less money, those that do. Yeah, kind of hard to spend. I remember I was there when I was here, and PlayStation came out. I couldn't afford a PlayStation. I could certainly not afford a PlayStation 2. I had to play it with my buddies. I wasn't able to afford a PlayStation until, like, it came out maybe 3 or 4 years after it came out. Yeah, that's definitely gonna hurt. And that's going to hurt the young people's ability to afford housing, which I think is my next statistic. Yeah, so inflation, that's going to be bad. That's going to be bad. I'd ask you kids to stop it with the give us more free shit. I know it seems like that's the solution. No, you need to get out and work, which of course admittedly requires corporations to give you a fair job, fair wages at, a real job with fair wages, a living wage. But that means you also have to go and produce shit, because a lot of people think about, well, we just printed off more money and that caused the inflation. Yeah, and in printing off money to pay people not to work, guess what? They didn't work, which means they didn't produce anything. So normally there would have been some form of production with that money if you had forced people to work for it, but you didn't. You bought votes with it. And again, you made liberal white women happy. Liberal white women happy is not a consuming good that the rest of us can enjoy. Only liberal white women can do that. Right. So there Lord knows how many cars could have been produced or how many houses could have been built with all that stimmy check money. So there's not going to be a production side to this. And then now let's take a look at housing starts. I like housing starts. I think it's one of the best predictive variables for the economy, because not only is there spending and investment at that moment in time as a house is started, it's indicative of at least 3, more like a year's worth of construction spending, because it takes a while to build a house, and consumer spending, because if you get a new house, that means someone is going to move into the new house, and they're also going to spend money furnishing the new house. So housing starts is a really good future economic indicator of not only construction spending, but consumer spending for whatever, artwork and furniture and doodads and whatever the missus wants in the house. So let's do housing starts. Take a look here. And it is, we're going to look, that's about 1,400. God, it barely got up. It's right at the average. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, you guys can see that. So you see here the big old build up to the housing bubble. Now, there was a ridiculous amount of housing beyond what there was demand built up in this area here. Then you had your housing crash, and you got to look at how long it stayed below 1,400, which is about, I don't know if you can see it, but right about here, in between this line and this line down here, that's 1,400. Look how many, we're talking, when did it drop? So it sank below in 2007, maybe, mid 2007. It didn't get back to normal until about 12 years later. So there was like let's call it 6 years excess building in the buildup, twice the amount of years it was running a deficit. And now you have a shortage of housing. Now, also during this time, you guys had your lips permanently affixed to Barack Hussein Obama's dick, because he was telling you free shit and follow your heart and money will follow. That was the big old college bubble, right? Because none of you were going to go become carpenters or tradesmen or nothing, because college. You're all majoring in environmental sciences because Barack Obama was talking about all the money he was going to spend on the environment. You dumb people. So a lot of people say, well, young people couldn't afford houses. Well, there wasn't any houses to afford, to be perfectly honest, which does result, you got a shortage of housing, and that's going to drive up housing prices. You also had at this time very low interest rates, which bidded up the price of housing that was already in short supply. I'll tell you right now, as an economist, the best thing young people could do is you all start going into home building and the trades, and you start building your own damn homes. Stop going to God, for the love of God, stop going to college, unless it's for something really precise. Doctor, nurse, CPA, electrical engineer. But please, for the love of God, will the rest of you stop going to college? You'll have the money and the ability not only to afford your home, but probably build a significant amount of it. Anyway, so in terms of future spending, it looks like it's trending low again. Here, and this is due to the high interest rates. So there's the peak of the low interest rates. Not even that big of a bubble. And here, yeah, it came down. So what I'm going to forecast is until interest rates get low again, you're going to see average to lower. It's going to trend downward slowly based on interest rates. And you're going to run a slight deficit. You're not going to make up for the current shortage of houses. You're going to continue contributing ever so slightly to the shortage of housing. Housing prices will remain stubbornly high, which means living expenses, which is your number one expense, unless, of course, you're a liberal white woman from North America, in which your number one expense is student loan debt interest expense because you have your doctorate in worthless crap. Or you're a dude, bro, where you have a car loan for your Hellcat and you didn't know how to do math. This is going to put tremendous pressure on young people spending because they're not going to be able to afford a house, and that big budget is going to take a lot of the discretionary income away. The people who can afford the house, yes, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some contribution to the economy there, but it's at neutral. It's at about 1,400 units. Was it per month? I'd have to look at the decimals. It's not going to, the construction spending isn't going to hurt the economy. The consumer spending that comes from it isn't going to hurt it's going to contribute some, but not as much as like a housing. I mean, look back in the 70s and the 80s when people were having families and we weren't like, you go girl boss, don't need no man. Kill your kid in utero. It's the fun new thing to do, man. With all that housing being built. Oh my God. Yeah, I think it'll contribute to the economy. It ain't going to make the economy boom. So it's not bad, but it's not great either. And then I did debt to GDP, 140%. And we're going to have more inflation due to that. So, okay. No, I don't need to save that. All right, now let's stop sharing. Stop screen. There we go. Put my beautiful face. So predictions. Same as I said 20 years ago, another slow, inexorable decline to Brazil type of standards of living. Our unemployment rates will continue to tick up. That's more due to corporations still to this day requiring ridiculous amounts of education and outsourcing jobs overseas and fake jobs. So that's just going to slowly tick up. Young people and people in general are going to get sick of the unacceptable proposition of finding employment that American employers are providing, where you make it just insane. It's not worth. I'm not get a 6-year college degree for you to not pay me a living wage, only to outsource my job and then replace it with AI or have me train. No. And I think younger people are starting to realize that. So your labor force participation rate is going to go down on top of the speed at which it was already happening anyway, especially for women as well as men. But then I know this, you don't like to talk about this because it puts an onus of responsibility on women, but until the sex war ends, and until you start treating men equally and kindly, or just stop treating them like shit, right? And you make it actually fair for men and women for employment. Men are continued to drop out of the economy, and until you have women and children in men's lives, like an actual family, that's what really got men to produce. You had family and a wife to support, had to pay for them. Until that comes back, which looks doubtful, you're going to have men continue to drop out. So, and then nobody likes work, but it looks like hours worked per week is going to stagnate. But you're going to have slower economic growth, less people entering the labor force. GDP growth is going to continue to slow down. We're going to continue to vote for more free shit unless, Trump, and, fine, we got Trump, but he just raised the debt caps. I don't care what he's cutting, and the spending is going to go up. You're going to have more inflation. Things will get more expensive down the road. I think I'm not an optimist. I think future generations of adults, or kids now would be Generation Alpha, let's just call it, they are as equally being successfully brainwashed to vote for free shit and not work by their Democrat teachers and professors, and they're going to vote for more free shit. They're going to scratch the rash. It's going to spread. They're going to say, why am I can't afford everything? So I'm poor. And it's just going to continue to get shittier and shittier. So medium term, there might be some optimism and loosening regulatory controls that might get the U.S. economy to have a slightly higher than average uptick in economic growth. There's also a trend to get things more onshored in the United States and less dependent on China. That will bring some jobs back here. It's going to take a while for that to happen, but I don't think it's going to be anything where we have this booming economy that we did under, say, Ronald Reagan. That's the last time. You might argue under Clinton, it kind of boomed with the dot-com bubble. Didn't compare to the 80s with Reagan. I don't know, a lot of you weren't even alive then, but go look at your GDP figures. But no, it's not going to be enough to save the economy or make it booming good times again. I think despite a low labor force, a low unemployment rate, there's going to still be a percentage of the population that has to work for a living, the majority of which got an unnecessary college degree, and an increasing percent of the labor force will be the underemployed. That's not a big prediction, but the percent will increase, which means people are not going to let's go. You're not going to have this, let's go and make Japan great again, like the Japanese in the 60s through the 80s. They will be demoralized. They will work less. They won't work as well because they are just not going to be using everything they went to school for. And so you'll see a lot of Ubers and Uber Eats and waitressing. Nothing's wrong with any of those things. It's just, but they'll have college degrees and they're not gonna try hard. I think you're gonna see an exodus out of white collar work because people are just like, yeah, fuck you, corpos. AI, I think, can replace pretty much every business major. So you're gonna see a migration out of that. Lower economic growth. And 5-year plan. You want me to predict 5-year, which let's do 3. I'm not even comfortable doing 3, let alone 5. Let's do 3. You're going to see the 2-point lows, like a 2.2 GDP growth rate until the end of Trump's term. Let's just say year and a half, 4 years. No, 3.5 years. You're going to look at your low 2s for GDP growth. It might go up and down, but it's going to average around the low 2s. We're going to see inflation exceed economic growth. You're going to see inflation of 3 to 5%, depending on what they do with money printer go burr. There is not a class or generation of young people who are being trained any way tangibly different than generations before them. So we will have a bunch of overeducated college graduates who can't really do anything to tangibly improve the economy. It will just dampen consumer spending because they're going to be in debt and they're without really the silver bullet, if there is one, would be you all become carpenters, start building the housing stock up again. That would really help out a lot, but that's not going to happen because Becky had at 17 decided she's going to change the world with her degree in political science. So without a like World War II style American hero, you're actually going to change the world. You're just going to have a bunch of another overeducated generation. The women of the younger generation are not going to be programmed any different than the ones before. They're going to still do the girl boss. We don't need no man, which is going to tremendously affect men's willingness to participate in the economy. So I think your labor force participation rate by the time Trump is out is going to be in the 60s, 60.5. Men will continue to drop out of the labor force. Women will continue to drop out of the labor force. It's just, I'm trying to predict something that's going to stand out. Nothing stands out. It's going to be more of this decaying gray shit of an economy we've had since about the 80s, maybe the 90s. I'll grant you that. Maybe the 90s with the dot-com bubble. It's just going to be more C- performance, D+ performance. No, it's not going to boom. You need someone to wake these kids up, a generation of kids, young people, young adults, to say, look, the adults know why, which I guess is what I've been trying to do. Say the adults don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You have drunk captains at the head of this ship, and you need to not do at minimum. Well, yeah, you got to take over, but at minimum, you got to do not what they're telling you. Usually 9 out of 10 times the opposite. They say be fat because big is beautiful. No, be thin. They say follow your heart. No, do what you hate. Follow the money and the money will follow. There. No, don't follow your heart and money. No, follow the money and the money will follow. Yeah, it's just going to be more. It's going to be more of a baby boomer economy with a couple more Gen Xers in charge. There, that's about it. That's really it. Because no one's going to tell you go into the trades, major in STEM. Your corporations aren't going to drop your ridiculous college education requirements, right? You're not going to change that. And you're not going to pay a living wage, so fuck you. I just don't see any money or people's time being invested in the U.S. economy because there's no incentive to do so. So that's it. That's it. If you're interested in resources, you could get a couple of my books. I have a book called Bachelor Pad Economics. That is the financial advice Bible for men and women who are bold enough to read it. If you'd like another economics book, I have a book called A World Without Men. As you notice, I focus on men on this because it's germane to the analysis. It's called A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. And I know that the entirety of what you've been told from kindergarten to today by teachers and media and all that, men bad, men patriot, especially you girls, like they're your enemy or at least your adversary and they're your competitors and you better and girl boss. Sorry, you can't eat girl boss. Okay, girl boss is not a product. Girl boss is not gasoline I can put in my car. It's a worthless fucking attitude. Doesn't contribute to GDP or standards of living. And for those of you who still think that you can just neglect half the population based on a trait they were born with, you go see what happens to the economy without men. A economic recovery will not happen until you reform society's relationship with men and make it much better than it is now. We don't need parades and our dicks suck like you've been doing to women for the past 40 years. Well, it's not right, but amazing. I just exist. I know we know. No. We just get out of our way and no more bigotry in the hiring process. But if you'd like to read that, that's a very interesting economic analysis. What would an economy look like if it was all women in the United States? Oh, it would just be the cat's meow, totes my goats, man. It would be all that in a bag of chips. And then if you'd like to get more personal financial management, I recommend a course I offer through Teachable called Achieving Financial Excellence. Instead of waiting for the rest of the world to pay you a living wage and get it, understand the true role of money and what it plays in your life. And there's no guarantee you're going to be rich, but you ain't going to be poor because you're not going to be buying your, master's in social work degree. But there's not a lot. The problem with the economy is that you don't control it. That's up to all the other fucking Walmart shopping pigs and lemmings in the United States. But the achieving financial excellence, that's one thing that you can hey, here's the role money should play in your life. And once you understand the role that money plays in your life, not all of it goes away, but I'd say you're immune to about 65, 70% of the economy. We just well, okay, that happened. Oh, gee, the economy. Oh, we're in a recession. I remember when I was employed by a person and a recession hit. Oh, yeah, it sucked. And now I don't care if there's a recession. Why? I'm part because I'm self-employed, but also because I've made my investments and I don't have debt. And so, there's a recession. Okay, well, that's fine. But what am I going to do? That's a you problem, Miss Lives Paycheck to Paycheck. That's not a me problem. All right. Let's go to the super chats. Ken says hi for $2. Hello, Ken. Auticus, 10 generous dollars. I don't trust government data. Yeah, you're 100% right. That's why the real value is in the trends, right? As long as they keep I don't actually believe the underemployment rate is 7.5 or 9% or whatever it was. I just don't believe it. But your methodology shows me it's doing this trend, so I know that the number has been improving or worsening. But you are right. I love inflation. Inflation's only what was inflation? Did we even look at inflation? Oh yeah, we did look at inflation. I looked at the CPI. I didn't look at the percentage just going up. Where I am, the state job database for unemployed had 55,000 jobs, 350 paid $18 an hour plus, and a place with $35 an hour cost of living. Yep. Here's the boring. I'll give you the boring thing. Money doesn't matter. It's how much shit we're producing. And if you want to make it difficult for people to produce shit, like AKA get jobs and people to form companies, and you overregulate them and you require all these fees and processes and certifications, you're just going to cripple the ability of your population to produce GDP. That's it. A lot of the problems we have, Democrat, Republican, that's irrelevant to the analysis. You make it so fucking ridiculously stupid hard to produce things in this economy with ridiculous college education requirements. And no defense of the American worker, by the way. Oh, let's just outsource it to India and H-1B visas and all this. There's a role government can play, but different discussion. And I don't care what your Democrat teachers tell, and they are Democrats. We cannot have this conversation without pointing out there's a basically America's CCP, which controls you and informs you and educates you because they own you for your entire childhood. That have told you a lie that somehow out there's a way that you don't have to work and we get all of our shit for free. It doesn't work. Remove money. Where do houses come from? It comes from American people building the houses. Where do cars come from? It comes from Americans going to the fucking Ford plant and building the cars. Where does the computer programmers come from? It comes from a bunch of nerdy guys going to school and sitting down and studying, learn how to code, and then they go to a software company and create your video games. There's no magic economic orc cloud that exists where it just shits out crap if we pull the levers of print off more money and lower interest rates. The only thing that can produce GDP is people. How easy do you Democrats or Republicans make it for people to get jobs and work and produce stuff? That's it. This is why higher education needs to be fucking nuked from the map. Unless it's very precise things that need 4 to 8 years of education, colleges and universities need to be nuked from the map. And if Cappy were king, not president, because president has to respect your your rights as human beings. If I was king, I'd grab every major employer, all their corporate executive team, and we'd go to a camp way off in the woods. And then when they left the camp, they would have it be very clear in their understanding that they will make it a lot easier for people to get jobs. And there's going to be training programs. Because if they're not, if I don't see training programs and you make it easy for people to get living wage jobs, we're going to have another meeting in the camp. And then I think they're going to get lost in the woods. What happened to the president and CEO of whatever? What's a ridiculous, I don't know. I don't want to name a specific company because you're threatening their CEO. What happened to that Fortune 500 CEO? He went for that meeting in the woods with King Cappy and he got lost hiking. Another CEO got lost hiking again. I don't know what happened to him. Oh, look, the new CEO is shaking. And he decided to get rid of college education requirements. And now they got training programs. Oh my God. How about that? That's what King Cappy would be. Hey, Femboy Fantasia, how you doing, buddy? $2. Fun fact, I have a deep voice. Good. Roberts, 10 generous dollars. Just talked to a coworker, superintendent of a small rural school district, 200 students. Just got a 40,000 raise. Guy makes 201,000 a year. Board announced they can't pay for school lunches. I'm going to tell you again, the Democrats are your enemy. They really are. I'm not saying the Republicans are your friend. But the Democrats are your enemy, young kids. The Democrats are your fucking enemy. They use you kids so much to get so much. Well, if you don't do it, the kids are going to. If you don't donate to my nonprofit to give us more money, the kids are going to get it. Dude, 201,000. I'm not a big Democrat, but I'd have a hard time working for a nonprofit organization taking $200,000 a year, especially for the kids. I'd be like, no, maybe we can all take a pay cut here. And by the way, it's not the school district's responsibility to feed the kids. That would be the parents. But how will mommy pay off her marketing degree and the Range Rover? She can't possibly stay at home and feed her own children. We need the taxpayer to do it. Never mind. Look. Here's another thing. You're not going to get people to work if the government pays to raise your family, right? If the government's going to pay for everything, why the fuck should we work? Wait, you're going to pay for our kids' food in school? Wait, the baby mama just left me or divorced me and I got to pay child support, but I don't know, we get child tax credits? Wait, she doesn't even know who the father is, so the kid gets free lunch and free. Why would people work? Why would I contribute? It's all right. You can replace men with government checks, said every Democrat ever. Femboy, $5. When companies make crazy demands for applicants, that tells me they don't want to hire regardless of what they say. It's an astute the dating market and the labor market have kind of paralleled. If you go back, Femboy, remember about 2 years ago, wasn't that long ago, there was the list. The girls had these ridiculous lists, and it was no different than employers having ridiculous requirements to apply for the job. And when you look at that, you need a job to live, right? Men would say you need a woman in your life, especially if you want to have sex. Yeah, I guess in that way you need, but you're not going to starve, like you continue living. But there's high demand, right? People really demand jobs and people really demand, or at least men do, sex or a woman in their life. And then when you look at the ridiculous requirements on both coming from employers and women to either get a job or date them, you look at it like, okay, I'm desperate, but that's impossible. I can't even meet those requirements. And what people don't realize is humans can adapt in the cracks. Humans can last a long time by changing their behaviors. I'll give you another example. With the housing crisis, I think a generation of home purchasers is pretty much gone forever, at least the medium term, because they couldn't afford housing. So what did they do? Well, they adapted. It's been years now, young middle-aged people couldn't afford homes. So now they've changed their living arrangements and their expectations. Some are living in vans, some are living on trailers, some are living at home. A lot of people are living at home. Some people are just renting with buddies, and it's become the new normal. Now, to get them to shift back from that to McMansions, if they ever become affordable again, I don't think they're going to be there. And the same thing has happened here. You've made it an impossible situation for dating, and you made it an impossible situation to find a job. People just say, fuck it, I can't do that. So I'm not even going to bother trying. And now I'm going to go find something else that will work, whether it's working a bunch of gigs, cutting your spending way back, collecting welfare, claiming to have a mental disability when you don't. That is all in the data. You can find that in a world without men. The number of men, what I would say, are falsely claiming to have a mental disability has tripled. But it's to be expected. And then you employers, we want that's not, people are just walking, and you see it. Younger people just saying no. And then all the baby boomers get their gray pubes up in a bun. Like, young people don't want to work anymore. I'm like, yeah, why should they? You're posting fake jobs. You have ridiculous education requirements. They don't have the background requirements because you're requiring 5 years in a software that only existed for 3. It's an entry-level position, but you want 3 years experience. And the internet, look, the last generation you got to fall for that hook, line, and sinker was my generation. The millennials and later, they have the internet, and now they know it's bullshit. Now they know that you guys are not right. You're not infallible. I think that's what the internet has made young people realize, is the gray hairs are not infallible. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. I think all you baby boomer men and Gen X men getting divorced contributed to. Yeah, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. All the teachers lying, the education bubble, you millennials know that. Everyone watches, oh my God, people are slowly realizing that college is not the end all be all, very slowly. And so now, because I remember, oh my God, I really should appreciate this opportunity to work, and I'll take whatever wage and I'll show it to you. I'll prove it. No, fuck you. Fuck you. I contributed to the housing bubble and the education bubble and the .com. None of you people know what you're doing. And you're not infallible. Oh, you got that job? That's nice. No, I'm not going to apply for your job. And I think the corpos, then they're scrambling. Oh, we're going to go overseas. We're going to find someone overseas. Have fun. Have fun. Go overseas. And because what you were willing to pay, it was a non-starter. It was not tenable. It was not feasible. If it's only feasible in Manila, fine, go pay them. But don't come here and waste our time. And then you're going to outsource it anyway. So fuck off. Again, not a Democrat, but highly sympathetic and understanding of what young people got to face today. Kurt Vogel, $10. Yo, Cappy, are you still bullish on accounting as a career field? Yes, it has to be done the right way. I would not now. Chad and I have talked about this a million times before on his channel, the Elkins Accounting Hour, which, by the way, I'll be on tomorrow. You cannot go and work for someone else. Now, you're going to have to sometimes to get the experience. But the accounting field is basically fracturing into 3 realms. You have your big 4 and your second tier large public accounting firms that are outsourcing everything to India and the Philippines. These are not firms you want to work for. They never were firms you want to work for. You were working $80 to $100 a week during tax season. They treated you like shit. They underpaid, and they got by on their reputation and their name. It is now pretty much confirmed most of them are outsourcing as many jobs as they can overseas, while at the same time bitching and whining they can't find people to work in the United States. That is dead. I would even suggest you don't go work for the big 4 at all. If you want to be employed in the accounting industry, you want to be self-employed, don't even bother working for the big 4. Go work for a mid-tier or a local CPA firm so you can get your year of experience under a CPA if you want to get your CPA. But the big 4 is just not negotiable. It is cancerous. Do not fucking even apply. Even if you want to be a W-2 wagey, Okay. So there's that field, which is the dead branch field. Then there is the W-2 field, which is going to be smaller and less corporate. You're going to work in industry. You're going to work for a smaller accounting firm, public accounting firm. I still think it's better than the big four and everyone outsourcing. But you got your small little hometown CPA. You run a shop of 5 or 6 CPAs. You do basic bookkeeping. For whatever, the local factory or whatever. I think the smaller time wage employees where you need to speak English, um, and you're not this blind private equity co-opted principal corpo bro who just doesn't realize they're running their ship into an iceberg, but that's their problem. So that I would say your small, medium in industry type of accounting. And then the one that me and Chad are promoting is the self-employment. Because not everyone is going to go to the big four. Not everyone needs this big public accounting firm. And hey, you corpos want to outsource overseas to English as a second language? Go ahead, be our guest. A lot of people want to have someone who's born and raised in America who speaks American English, is not overseas. Their social security number doesn't go to some rando over in Manila. It doesn't mean that there's not corruption here, but you know who my CPA is? My CPA is Bob. Bob Bobson of 123 Main Street, America. And when I call up Bob, he picks up the phone and answers my call. And he's not charging me $400, $500 an hour like they do at the big four. I don't even know. They may be charged $1,000 an hour now over at the big four. So when it comes to accounting, yes, but you got to do it correctly. Of which Chad made mistakes a decade and a half ago. He worked for the big four. He went and got an MBA. So we put together that course, The World's Greatest Accounting Career. You can find it by searching it on Teachable. And it's not just the world's greatest accounting career. It's the world's greatest accounting career. It's very exciting. It's not even one of the best. It's the greatest. See, this is not an average accounting career. This is the greatest. And we go through all the different options on how, if you want to be a corporate accountant, you want to be industry accountant, or do you want to be self-employed? And that's what I think the future is, because still the nature of accounting lends itself very well to self-employment and remote employment, because most people are like, no, I'm doing it online. Only boomers like, I ain't brought you my papers. No, scan them in. We don't do that shit no more, Herman. Are you still bullish on accounting as a career field? Yes, if you do it correctly. I still have the GI Bill, but I don't want to spend time, money, energy going into a career field that will be eliminated by AI. I would go and take that course. It's $150. Take a look. And there's other ways you can go and become an accountant without having to go to college. That's the enrolled agent route, but you're more or less committed to becoming a tax accountant. But take a look at it. You might enjoy it. Or not. No one's going to enjoy it. You'll learn and say, yeah, this is for me, or no, it ain't for me. And ironically, you may not even need the GI Bill. But there's a lot worse fields going into accounting. But if you're, I'll tell you this, if you're the type, I like to have my health insurance paid for. I like to have 9 to 5. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I am not the entrepreneurial type. Then I'd be a little more reluctant to become an accountant, because you are going to be pigeonholed into that small to medium market. But it's still better than majoring in journalism. But if you removed self-employment from it, I'd almost go with the trades. But the problem is, I hate to say this, any analysis today for young people or people entering the labor market, I don't think you have the option to not factor in self-employment into it, because it's becoming so unacceptable, the terms of employment, working for someone else right now, whether that's wages or healthcare or whatever else, and not to mention mentally ill people. You don't want to work for corporate America. I don't think self-employment is an option for a lot of people. You're going to have to factor that in. you're going to have to say, well, okay, I don't want to be a self-employed accountant, but yeah, what if you have to be? Same thing with trades. Well, I just want to go and do plumbing. Well, the problem with the trades is if you're working for someone else, yeah, they underpay you. They'll bill you out at 250, 300, but they're going to pay you $20 an hour. You're almost compelled to go into self-employment because that's frankly where you're treated best. I didn't want to be self-employed. I didn't want to become a dance instructor. I didn't want to become a property renter, landlord. I didn't want to become an author, but I had to. And in hindsight, it's a hell of a lot better than any job I ever had. So, yeah, that's kind of, if you were really like, no, I want to be employed by someone else, fuck, there's nothing good. It really isn't. I mean, accounting's still better than the majority of degrees. So is engineering. But yeah, have fun with the TPS reports. Have fun with Karen in HR. Have fun with Thaddeus as the CEO sales bro. And I'm not worried about everything being eliminated by AI in accounting. Larger 8, $2 still recommend digital marketing as a career. Yeah, I'm not the expert on it. Ask Seth. Times might have changed. The market might have changed. But Seth, I think he still runs his course. But ask him, reach out to Seth. Seth Hymes, Hymes. And he'll be honest. He'll tell you, yeah, that market dried up. But yeah, that guy pulled so many people out of poverty. He found a niche, man, and you didn't have to go to college, and they love him. Like he'll come to town and like, hey, and they all show up for Seth. Yeah, check in with. I haven't heard from him in a while. I should check in on him. All right, there you guys go. See you guys later. Toodles.